Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7 on hot7025fm.com.
There we go. Yeah.
Where do I go live at?
So, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. It is Wednesday, another wonderful Wednesday, as we do so well. Today, we do have a guest on the show. So with that being said, instead of me, normally I bring the guests on right away, but I really love what our guest did for us today. She sent in a bio. A lot of people have came and sat and talked to me. They've came and had conversations. We've talked about what they've done, but I just thought it was pretty cool that somebody had an introduction for themselves when talking, you know what I mean? Or when coming onto the show, because typically people will just come on and, we're going to get into all of it. But the bio is pretty cool because now not only do we get to talk about it, but we get to talk about everything inside of the bio itself. And if you know me so well, I'm going to stop from all the jokes because, it's your introduction. I don't want to do you wrong. So today we do have Coach Amber J in the building. Now, Amber Jones is a certified CEO life coach, wardrobe expert, and the author of the book, The Key. Based in the Las Vegas area, she is the founder of Coach Amber J Enterprises, LLC, where she specializes in helping professional women build confidence, discover their potential, and achieve success. With her expertise in personal style and coaching, Amber empowers clients to exude confidence from the inside out. I love that. Through her coaching programs and inspirational book, Amber guides individuals on transformative journeys of personal growth and empowerment. With a background in corporate America and experience mentoring youth aged 11 to 25, she brings a unique perspective to her coaching practice. In addition to her professional accomplishments, Amber Jones is a devoted mother of 3 boys. This has given her first-hand understanding of the challenges of balancing a successful career with the responsibilities of motherhood. Her personal experiences have shaped her coaching approach, allowing her to relate to clients who are navigating their similar journeys. Man, I was raised by a mother, and it was 3 of us, 3 boys. Amber is passionate about living a life she loves and is dedicated to sharing her knowledge and insights to help others become the greatest version of themselves. Her mission is to empower individuals to unlock their full potential and create a balanced, fulfilling life that aligns with their values and goals. So, please help me introduce Amber Jones with us today, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing today, Amber?
Hey, thank you for introducing me. I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. I'm glad to hear it. The bio is amazing. That's why I had to want to read it. You know what I mean? It just really digs in and talks a lot about you in such a short amount of time.
Thank you.
I've always heard this thing called an elevator pitch of
Yeah.
when you're trying to, express to somebody who you are, what you got going on, things like that. And I think sometimes a bio is kind of similar to an elevator pitch. You're kind of expressing who you are. That was just perfectly put. I appreciate that. So, I gave her props beforehand on the fact of the bio. Not only was the fact that you sent one, but it's the fact of how it's actually put together. So, great job on that. Kudos to you on that. I do want to say, literally, my mother was a single mother of 3 boys.
Wow.
She, my father, I tell everybody the same joke about my father. He was a great magician. He had the best disappearing act. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's a good joke.
My brother's father was, here so, a little more active with their lives. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say he was there all the way, but he was, he was there more,
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that was the same on your end, if you had to do that alone or if you had help. But I just say kudos to the single mothers that have to raise boys, because I know we were hell growing up.
So I wouldn't say I'm a single mother.
Okay.
I am definitely a single woman raising 3 boys, but I don't do it alone. Their dad is involved, so
That's what's up.
I can't knock them completely, but I do have them most of the time. So
That's what's up.
I definitely feel the pressure of being a single parent.
Okay.
But I don't even like to call myself a single parent. I say I'm the main parent, but their fathers are still both involved.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I mean, just for them to be active, a lot of people are walking around, like my mother, for say, she couldn't say that with confidence like that,
Yeah.
And there are some women that couldn't say that for confidence, but I love the fact that there are some that do, because then you see, now you have people to show examples of what, stepping in actually looks like, or stepping.
Yeah.
I don't want to say stepping up, because stepping in is what you should do. Stepping up means you're stepping up to something that wasn't your responsibility. And I feel like a child is definitely your responsibility.
Absolutely. And
Uh,
I like to give credit, because I wouldn't want to say that I just do it alone. But for the majority, they're with me. I'm the primary parent, let's say
There
that.
you go. I like that.
And I think that it's important that we give credit when credit is due. So thank God I do have their fathers involved, because it is hard raising sons. I have 2 teenagers. Well, I have one a preteen, and I'm like, nobody says it's this hard, especially with boys.
Yeah.
Even though I was raised with all brothers, it's very different than girls. So
Yeah, and one thing I've always said is my stepdad, when we were younger, my mom's first husband, he came around when I was about 9 years old. Yeah, I was a little salty because I was a mama's boy, and, I couldn't do nothing about her getting married, and I was like, he taking my mama away, that's how I felt. But all through all, I used to strongly dislike that man for all the things he used to put me through. And now as an adult, though, especially when I became a father, I respect him so much more.
Yeah. And I think that's like with anything. As children, we just want, like you said, someone taking your mom away, which is, we got to really explain that to our kids, right?
Yeah.
And then 2, we don't really realize the discipline is necessary, right? The structure, the discipline, especially being someone that isn't your father. So now you're like, this stranger's coming in trying to, one, take my place and then tell me what to do. Like,
Yeah.
So my oldest son, when I was married, I met him, my son was 4. And so even then, I seen the struggle of like my oldest and my ex-husband, like have this tension, like this battle of like, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man of the house. Well, I've been the man, but he's 4. But one of the things that I learned in that is, it's really important as the mother and as the woman to make sure that both feel secure in their positions. Okay. And that's something I learned in retrospect, because there was a lot of conflict that took place with my ex-husband and my oldest son, because it wasn't his biological child. And I protected him a lot of times. And in retrospect, I'm like, I wish I should have let him discipline him a different way, because I see that it would have had a different effect. But I'm like, this is my baby. This isn't your son. You're too hard. Yeah. And in retrospect, I'm like, you should have just toughed him up a little bit, because mama's boy.
Yeah, but that's the nurturing side. So one thing I always tell people is, women are nurturers naturally, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll never discourage a woman from being a nurturer, right? That's not the issue. It's not the case. You're just all you know is when you see your baby in danger or hurt or in a position to be hurt, to jump in the way and be Superwoman, because you want to protect them from it.
Mama bear all day.
That's it.
Like, so, I'm on attack mode, even if he's wrong.
Right. So don't be upset about that. Don't be upset about the fact that you were just trying to be there. But the only reason why the man probably never overstepped that boundary is because he felt the fact that there was no point in losing you over something that y'all could have worked out a different way. You see?
Well, actually, looking back at it, there caused a lot of tension between us that separated us anyway. And so I think it's really important that as we go into relationships, that we kind of take some of those things in, especially if you've been a single woman and a mother for a while. I think those are one of the biggest issues that I hear, even as a coach, coaching marriages and different things, is like, we don't do a good job explaining, introducing, and even hearing each other's points of view, because we do it from an emotional place instead of some of it needs to be logical, right?
There you go.
So I think that all of those things play a role, and it, like I said, it created a lot of division and separation that could have possibly been avoided had I kind of took a step back and not been so emotional all the time. So I'll take accountability in my part.
It looks great on you. It looks great on you. So one thing I'll say with that is when you say step back, you know, a lot of women will look back and say, I still protected my child. And now, granted, you still protected your child. But the fact that you can look back and say, you know, maybe sometimes my boundaries, or I may have pushed some boundaries I shouldn't have.
I wouldn't even say they were boundaries, right? Because boundaries are to protect both people. I think that I created a lot of walls that made separation. And so there's a huge difference when we say boundaries, because most people think like, oh, boundaries are intended to be healthy and beneficial for both people. And in my case, they weren't. They were walls, right? They're like, this is my baby. This is my stuff. Like, you're not going to come in and create any type of separation, because I wanted my son always to feel like I had his back, even at his detriment, right?
Yeah.
And so I think boundaries and walls is what I created, was what created separations, right? So it's a huge difference in understanding. I'm really big as a coach, like teaching language and understanding words and the things that we use, because we throw around a lot of terms, but they're not properly used and we have the wrong meaning.
Okay.
So I definitely didn't have boundaries. I had all these walls. I had red flags, wall. Yeah. Like, oh, you trying to do what? Wall.
It's just, it's rare to hear, you know, how well and confident you speak of the growth.
Thank you. I've done a lot of work. My coaching literally comes from the experiences I've endured. And I think that life is about learning lessons and then applying them. And so a lot of what I teach my clients are things that I had to experience, and learning how to really be accountable. I think accountability is the number one way to truly step into full healing and understanding and growth. And I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons, but I'm grateful for them.
You know, but that's what I tell people. You know, I'm glad you're using the word lessons, because I tell them all the time, as far as, you know, I've never taken a loss.
None. Yeah.
I've learned a lesson every single time. You know, some lessons I've had to learn more than once, but I've always learned a lesson from it.
Right.
You know, when you look at it as a loss, you feel like you got nothing from it, and that's not true.
That's true. Yeah. And like you said, it's about perspective. So seeing it as a loss, then it's going to be a loss, and it's going to be something that you're going to have to grieve. Or if it's a lesson, and you won't repeat it. So it's definitely good to perspective.
It is. It is. You know, some people, I think when it comes to perspective, they can't see themselves being positive.
Yeah.
And I don't like that about people. I don't like that people aren't having the confidence in themselves to at least say, I can have a good day, you know, or at least say, hey, I can make this conversation a positive conversation. You know, it's just so much negativity around. And I should say it's so much aggression, not so much as negativity. It's just so much aggression when people are talking to each other these days.
I just think that a lot of us have not been equipped with the proper tools to communicate, especially like raising sons, right? Like, it's very important for me to like make my sons calm down, think about it, and then express that emotion, opposed to detaching, and then all they feel is anger, right? And so they're dealing with each other or other people through that angered feeling. And so for me, like, it's really important to just slow people down and ask them, okay, like, how did that make you feel, right? And I think that we just haven't been equipped with the proper information. I taught years of codependency, and the number one thing about codependency is learning the balance of things, right? And when you are a codependent person, you either have your from 100 to 0, there's no in between. So it's either black or white. There's no gray area. And so learning how to properly communicate, identify things, express yourself. I just think that we, especially in our community, are not given a lot of proper tools to make great decisions. And it shows, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of unfortunate. But I'm grateful to be on your show because this is an opportunity for us to be able to teach people.
Yeah.
You know, I say this all the time, like, how will people know without a teacher? And a lot of times we're told to do things, but we don't understand the why. We're not taught to do things. We're like, go over here and do this, and no feelings, no understanding. So you're doing things and you don't even know why you're doing them.
Yeah.
And then you're like, have to respond based off of something you don't know. You know what I mean? So I just think it's really important for us to be able to teach people certain things because we just weren't taught.
Yeah, and I'm so happy you said that because I'll be honest, the 19, 20-year-old version of me could not compete in a conversation with the 31-year-old me today. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely.
Just about being able to target or express how I feel, what I need to say, how I need to say it. Not being so stubborn and arrogant, you know. And I just really feel like if I was to sit down for myself, I probably wouldn't want to sit there for no longer than 5 to 10 minutes because I'm like, you know what? You just ain't going to listen to me. You're just stubborn, so fuck it. I'm going to let you deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, growing up through life, because I've been through anger management, you know, therapy, counseling, things like that, I've received the tools that help me better communicate, help me better express myself, which is why I'm so strong on everyone going to counseling or therapy.
Absolutely.
You know,
you need a coach and a therapist.
You know, like they think that it is a crime, like you are going to go to hell or go to jail or something just to go see a therapist. You know, especially my brothers, man. Like, I really need y'all to understand. I've been there, man. I understand. You feel like you don't never want to open up or talk to nobody, but you got to know one thing. Them people don't know you.
Yeah.
They don't know you from a can of paint. You know, if you trying to go and talk to them, they not finna go next door to your neighbor and spread it around the neighborhood. Them people is there to help you better express that to them people in your neighborhood. So that way you don't end up, you know, in a bad situation.
Yeah, and I just think that we haven't given the right information. I think a lot of times, like, you know, we're told to, you know, go pray about it and you'll be fine, sleep on it, you know. And even on a spiritual side, or I'm a Christian, so on a Christianity belief system, it's like, oh, go pray. But faith without works is dead. And so those tools are necessary to actually make things happen. And I just, again, I'm so big on being taught things, and so we're giving information without why we need it and how to apply it. And especially for our men, like, or for the men listening, like, there's a lot of tools you weren't given. I mean, I grew up by my father, raised with 4 brothers, and I can remember, like, you know, even as a mother, very young, especially my oldest son, I'll be like, oh, be quiet, like, suck it up, like, you're not supposed to have emotions. Same, I went to anger management, and I had this aha moment, like, oh, you ain't supposed to be putting your hands on people, like, just because you didn't get your way, right? So I just think that, again, we just don't have the proper information, and a lot of things can be avoided if someone would take 2 minutes and explain something, right? Explain why we do it. Why are you angry? Like, I ask that all the time, like, why are you angry? And I remember when someone would ask me, because I used to be a very angry, mean girl, like, and they would ask me, like, why are you mad? I don't know. But in retrospect, it's like, I don't have my mom. Like, I'm not in a family that I know. Like, I had all these rejection, abandonment, all these emotions that I just couldn't understand or explain. And so it was hard for me to, like, articulate those things. So it went into rage, right? Like, I wasn't just angry. It was like 0 to 100. Like, if you made me mad, there was wrath, period. Like, so, yeah.
You know, the funny thing that you say that is one of the reasons I finally made myself go to anger management the first time, is because at that time my anger was horrible. My temper was to the point where sometimes I would just, like, black out, and then I'd be like, oh, damn, you know?
Right, after the fact. Like, oh, I caused this damage.
yeah, you know what I mean? Now I'm looking at myself like I just tore down a building or something, like, damn, man, you tripping.
Right.
So I made myself go to anger management. I saw that it was an issue, but the one thing that I passed on, especially, you know, everybody really, but especially to the men I see, you know, can't really control their violent urges, you know? And I always bring up the fact that anger is never your first emotion. So you can't tell me you instantly angry, right? Anger comes from one of 3 things. It's either hurt from the past, frustration of the present, or fear of the future.
Yeah.
So one of those things will have triggered your anger, And that's when you got to stop to think, like, dang, am I really angry right now? Or am I just thinking about something that kind of pissed me off?
It's like
is it
triggered.
really worth it? Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell people all the time, don't worry about people tiptoeing around your triggers. Learn how to control them.
That's really good. But I think even before you can control them, you have to know that they're there.
Exactly. You have to approach them. Yes.
And you have to be, there's so many people that are so not self-aware, and so I don't, and then if you grow up in a family or a community or a household where rage is okay, like for me, you know, growing up, I had 4 brothers. So if I didn't get my way, like I'm throwing things, I'm hitting people. And then when I got in a relationship with a man and realized like, oh, you can't just be swinging your hands or hitting on nobody. Like there's consequences. It made me realize like this behavior is not okay.
Right.
So a lot of times I don't even think people are even self-aware. Like if this is how I normally behave, well, what's wrong with it? And it's not until someone comes and says like, listen, you cannot be putting your hands on people.
Yeah.
You can go to jail. Like, or something bad can happen. So, again, like, I just think that we're just not aware.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it takes, again, self-awareness is the biggest thing about it.
Yeah.
You know, but with that being said, you have to be willing to grow and be willing to want to get out of that comfortability zone. You know, and we all know growth is uncomfortable. So if you feel uncomfortable through something, you're going through it. Good job. You know, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, that's good.
But don't let it hold you back from being a better person, you know? Because sometimes, how do I say this? I've run into some people, and they'll say it in a way of showing off. Oh, people always tell me I'm like that, but I don't care.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh.
Well, I would say my belief system is like, well, you don't like the truth, right? So like, you know, I was very blunt and I was very raw, and it's like, well, that you just don't like to hear the truth. It's not that I don't like to hear the truth. It's just that it's not digestible. Like, is it truth that, you know, or are you cutting me with your words? You know, especially
Right.
being in a relationship. Like, I would say things to a man, and I'm like, girl, you just slaughtered his whole ego. Like,
Yeah.
Of course he's not gonna listen to you. Like, you
Yeah.
just.
And you know, that's not even talked about enough, where people don't realize that, you know, they say as men we don't want to open up and talk. And don't get me wrong, I'm not speaking for every man, because I know there are some men out there that may not be able to do that, right? But I'm going to speak for myself and others that, you know, I've had conversations with. We do try to have those conversations, and then we get that, you know, that sharp tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, you cutting at every angle because we're trying to express something to better the relationship.
Yeah.
So instead of us trying to make it worse, sometimes we just shut down. We're like, you know what?
I'm going to just ease on out of this.
There you go. Because we don't know what, at this point, we're not sure what to do.
Right.
To actually get this conversation had or to be understood. We don't know if we just shouldn't bring up anything that's bothering us. We don't know if we should bring it from a place of genuine care, or we should be dominant and hardcore about it. We don't know what to do, because we feel like when we try to do it the way we're told or we're asked, we get assaulted for it, you know.
Right.
And I'm trying to get a lot of men to understand that when that happens, you know, just let it be. It's okay to say, you know, that was uncalled for.
Yeah.
It kind of hurt my feelings.
Right.
I'm going to need a little bit of time to gather my thoughts, and we can come back to this conversation.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that, you know?
That sounds very easy, but I just think that it, and you back to the point of like going to therapy and going to, or having a coach or things like that, like once you're given the tools, but we're talking about people who don't have the tools, right? We're talking about people who don't have the understanding to even express that. So
True.
They shut down and then they go to anger. So I had my middle son, he has taught me amazing lessons about communication, because he moves in like slow motion and I'm always on 100. Like, I'm busy, I gotta go, we gotta get to the next place. And one day I was asking him a question like, hey, what do you think? And I'm like screaming at him, and I turn around and look at him. I'm like, do you not hear me? And he's like, I'm trying to think about how to answer this. And it made me realize in that moment, like, oh, everyone kind of communicates differently.
Yeah.
And he needs a moment to process. But it was such an awakening for me to really learn how to communicate with men, right? Like, especially as women, we're natural communicators. We're always engaging and talking and all of these things.
Yes.
But most men, they need to process some of the things that we're asking to give us an answer. And like you said, sometimes you don't even know how to respond. So it gave me such a aha moment, like, men and women are literally from Venus and Mars, because I'm sitting here like, give me a quick answer right away, right now. And he's like, I'm trying to process it. And I was like, oh, okay, let me slow down.
But you know what's so funny about that is, just to take a little accountability here, I used to get frustrated at the speed of that being like, I haven't even thought about it yet. So when it's coming to me, like when my wife does it, I used to get so frustrated about the fact that she would keep, and I'm like I haven't even had a chance to think yet. So because I started to think like, okay, apparently me being frustrated with her because of her doing it, it's not working.
Right.
I started approaching it differently and saying, okay, let me process that for a second.
Right.
Every time she
Expressing
says
that.
something, because now I know if I say that, I can get at least a minute or two
Right.
to go ahead and think about it. So I'm glad you said that, but because before I would just create, I would make situations that didn't need to be blown up, and I would blow them up,
Just because you didn't know how to express
Just
that.
because I didn't know how to express that.
Right.
So just to take a little accountability there, I went through it, and I learned that, that was not the best way to do it, and I had to change it. As soon as I seen the first time it worked, and I was like, it was that easy?
Yeah.
I told him, like, my bad for every time I got to tripping about it. I could have just said, give me a second to process it, and we could have been cool. So, I feel bad for some of the times because it's like, man, it didn't have to go there.
Right.
It didn't have to go there.
Yeah.
But, you live and you learn. Like I say, I've learned lessons. I've
Right.
never taken a loss.
Right.
Never taken a loss. So one thing I do want to talk about too, though, because I'm paying attention to the time, and it's like it's just flying by. You actually encourage women, like it says, to be their best selves inside out. To love them.
Yes.
How does that look for you? How is that? What is the word I'm looking for? Dang, I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say.
I think I kind of understand. So how I got that is I realized it all starts within us, right?
Okay.
And so for me, it took me to look at myself. Why I was in the relationship I was in, why I tolerated certain things, why I behaved certain things. So when I talk about finding ourselves within ourselves, it's really taking a moment to look at ourselves in the mirror and really step back. And I think one of the biggest things that I find more with women than I do with my male clients is learning how to be accountable and self-aware and taking ownership. Like, for instance, I was in a bad marriage, right? And I can put a lot of the blame on my ex-husband. I can say, he was a dog, he cheated, he did this, he did that. But all of those times, I had a choice in every decision that was made, right? I had a choice to walk away. I had a choice to forgive. I had a choice to, I had choices, right? And so when I started to be accountable for my own self and look in the mirror, why did I accept this? Why did I deal with this? Why did I even put myself in this situation? And I started to really look within and go within. It allowed me to go deeper and realize, okay, I have mommy issues, I have abandonment issues, I have rejection issues, and so all of these issues have nothing to do with anybody but myself. And so it allowed me to really go within myself and figure out what's wrong with me. Why do I feel this way? Why do I behave this way? And so what I do with my clients is I really teach them to start looking within, giving them tools where they can start to love themselves, because a lot of it is we want to be loved, we want to be accepted, we want to be protected and safe and safe, and a lot of times we just don't have that. And so when I started to realize that I can give this to myself, then it allowed me to really really begin to heal. And when you heal from the inside out, your confidence shows up, your authenticity shows up, your truth starts to show up, you have a voice again, all of those things. But a lot of that started with me deciding to take accountability and really look in the mirror and look at myself and not my circumstances, not my family history, not my belief systems. Like, what is really going on the inside, girl? Like, what's up?
I love to hear it. Accountability looks great on you. It looks great on you. It's so hard to get people to understand the work it takes with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially, one thing I heard you say with abandonment issues, you never really can fully deal with that
Yeah.
You just learn to approach it in a better way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, man, when I'm telling you, those abandonment issues, they just make you feel like,
you're not worth it.
yeah, you know what I
worth
mean?
it.
It just, yeah, and it sucks and it's horrible. And the first thing I've told everybody when it comes to me trying to approach those issues is I've stopped blaming other people for what
Yeah.
somebody else has done.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think that too, we're on a journey, right? When I started to be very more gentle with myself, right? Like, I'm on a journey of life, right? I'm on a journey that allows me to go through different things. And like you said, no longer blaming anyone. But as a child, there was decisions that I didn't get to choose, right? There's things that happened to me that I wasn't able to fix.
Right.
But as an adult, I can decide if I want to allow what happened to me be the trajectory of my life. And when I decided and realized that I have the control to change my reality in the rest of my life and live the way that I want to live without blame, without guilt, without anger, without bitterness, that was a decision that as an adult I had the power to do. And so I realized when I started to heal, like, I have power, you know, when I have control. I don't have to accept anything no more. I don't have to just go with the flow anymore. So true healing, you're on a journey, right? And so knowing that, okay, this is not an overnight process. This is not a daily, but it's a daily decision to choose to be who you want to be, right? Yeah. And that is really where it started for me. And when you start to look inward, then you don't have the room to go outward because you're like, oh, I got to heal this. And then you give grace to other people and you allow other people. And even for me, like, I was able to forgive my parents. I was able to forgive things that happened to me and my ex-husband and all these things because I started to realize I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I was just in a bad place. Right. But as an adult, I get to decide what this looks like. And if it doesn't feel good to me, then I don't have to stay there.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely important to just even know we're on a journey. Like, we don't have all the answers.
I like that. And so I was just on social media, there was a post I shared the other day, and it stated how nobody talks about all of the ins and outs of healing. You know, the anger, the passive aggressiveness, you know, the ups, the downs. Nobody talks about the journey of healing. They just talk about, oh, I've healed. I've done that. I've gotten through it. So to hear you talk about it is great because you don't hear that too often. You hear somebody say, you know, I went through a bad time, but I'm better now.
Right.
And it's like, that's not telling me nothing.
And then not only that, like, even in our lives, right? Like, we don't have a bad life. We have bad moments, right? We have bad, like,
That's
even on the day, like, I don't have to have a bad day. I just had a bad moment. It was a busy hour. Like, you know, it was just those things that, like, oh, okay, like, things are not horrible. It's just this moment, right? And even learn how to process your feelings. Like, that's another thing. Like, we need to learn how to process our feelings.
You know, I learned something from Denise the other day. We were talking, and she taught me something so well for that I'm going to start using it in my home. And she says, well, if you can't have a good morning, try to have a better evening. If you can't have a better evening, try to have a good night.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you have your morning, evening, and night. And I said, you have just changed my household with that statement.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because a lot of people in life, you know, they'll wake up, I'm going to have a bad day. And you're like, how do you know that? You just got out of bed.
Right. You just woke up. How about just lay back down for a second and
try it
back
again.
up?
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Maybe get on the left side instead of the right side of bed. I don't know. But don't think like that. I had a friend, a coworker, when I worked at Asurion. I used to love that place. And he would every day come in. He'd be like, man, I wake up and I know I'm going to have a bad day.
And we don't even realize, like, the power of our words, right?
Yeah.
The power of thoughts. Like, you manifested this day. Like,
And I told him.
Keep your angry self over there.
So one day I just randomly texted him early in the morning because we worked the morning shift.
Okay.
So about an hour before we went to work, I just randomly texted him like, hey, man, remember, get up and tell yourself you're going to have a good day.
Yeah.
You know, so he get up, he coming to work. He was like, I was like, why are you so cheery? I was like, you got a bonus or something? He's like, nah, man. I went to Starbucks and somebody paid for my order at Starbucks and you know what I mean? He's like nothing but green lights. He said, I got here faster than I thought I would. So I've been chilling in we had a little game room. He said, I've been chilling in a little game room.
Wow.
And I was like, did you get up and tell yourself you was going to have a good day? He said, you know, funny thing is, I kind of forgot So in the car, I did it in the rearview mirror.
Wow. And looking at it.
And I said, look, look what happened.
Yeah.
So I told him, I
That's
said,
powerful.
stop thinking negative. I said, because negativity can never run me.
But I like that, not only because, again, I'm always there for a teaching moment. So not only did you tell him something, but you gave him the tools to do something different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. A lot of times, like you said, oh, I'm on a healing journey, but how did you get there? What are the tools? What are the steps? What exactly did you do that made things different? And I think that's the most important thing. And big ups to you for giving that teaching moment. Like, here, you know,
because I don't want it to be like, I'm big on, like you say, we here to teach. So I got tools on my tool belt, but that don't mean it's limited to just me.
Absolutely.
It's not like I can't teach you to use the same tools I use on my tool belt. You know what I mean? And if I can show you something that you don't know, hey, go for it. Because maybe one day you'll show me something I don't know, and I'm going to appreciate the favor.
Right.
So I love that about people. And genuinely, it's so funny how things work out. You probably see somebody today, teach them something so simple, and then 7 years down the road, you can run into them, and they got something to teach you that's going to change your life. You know?
Absolutely.
You never know. You never know how things work out.
And one of the things that I do is one of my visions and goals is to be impactful with everyone I meet, right? So I want to be able to give somebody something, right? Whether that's a word of encouragement, whether that's a lesson, a teaching moment,
or
just pouring into them, or a bad joke, right? Or made them laugh at because I'm not a jokester at all. So.
See, I'm a dad joke man all the way. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So, that's one of my goals in life is to be able to leave impact everywhere I go. And so that's a decision that I've made, and I'm intentional about it. And it's so amazing how, like you said, you can share something with someone that can be so small but so important to them on their journey, where years later they come back and like, oh my God, thank you for that moment. I'm like, what did I say? They're like, it was just what you said or what you did or whatever. And or how someone has done that for me. So it's definitely about pouring your little seeds out.
Yeah, it is. It is. And funny thing is, when I lost my brother almost 12 years ago, I kind of, thank you for that. I kind of lost my faith, for a while.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, man, them years was rough. It was a lot going on. And one day I just kind of remembered someone saying that, well, if you've got the faith of a mustard seed, that's all you need for things to, to start changing your way. And I'm like, I don't think I've lost all of it. I think I'm just, confused. And I went and looked up the size of a mustard seed, and I saw how tiny that thing was, and I said, that's it?
That's it?
That's all it is? I got
need.
that. I got that. And I swear to you, from that moment on, everything in my life just started going downhill. When I say downhill, because it's easier to go down instead of up.
Yeah.
Right? It was so much easier for me, such a smoother ride. It was so much easier. Everything started going my way. Things started falling into place, and I was like, man, it just, like they say, that it'll build from that little mustard seed. You know what I mean? That faith will get up there. So
I really even like the fact that you were able to identify that part when you lost someone, that you lost your hope. I want to talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of people don't realize that that's a portion of depression. Yeah. I lost my nephew the end of 2022.
My condolences.
Thank you. And I never felt depressed before. I didn't ever even want to admit that I identified with depression. And I felt like that too. My whole life just kind of raveled out of control, and I didn't understand why, but it was that moment of I lost something so significant that I can never replace.
Yes.
And I didn't realize, even as a coach and all of that, I'm depressed. This is what depression feels like, or this is what hopelessness feels like. But it feels like that. It feels like your hope is gone and it was ripped away. And so even with that, sometimes our life spirals out of control. But if you can go back to the moment of what happened, what started this ripple effect of this bad or these negative feelings or depression, it's really important to just be able to pinpoint that and identify it. And I think that helps you begin to say, okay, I can change. I don't have to stay in this hopeless feeling or this hopeless place. So anyone dealing with depression, maybe you don't want to identify it, but maybe you're in a bad place in your life right now and you're just trying to figure out why all these bad things are happening. Take a moment to reflect and go back to that first thing that happened that really just threw you off course, and start trying to pick up the pieces from that place.
Yeah. It's nothing wrong with your life being a puzzle, because, puzzles can always be put back together. You know what I mean? No matter how many times you separate that puzzle, all the pieces are there. You just got to put it back where it needs to be.
Yeah,
you see?
For sure.
So, one thing, I like things that are challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest challenge is going to be getting through something every single time, especially if it's new. You don't understand it. It's all growth.
You never been there.
Yeah,
so
you never been there, right? I never been there. So I was saying for the longest with my son, up until he was about 3 or 4, I had to realize that, talking to him, disciplining him, the way I act with him, the way I operate between him and my daughter, I had to realize, I didn't know what I was doing at first.
Mm-hmm.
I was only going off what I thought a father would be, right? And even though I spent time and all of this and that, I feel like there were some key areas that now I do a lot well with that I could have done then too. Like talking, conversating and disciplining. But I've grown from that and I've learned from that. But I didn't have a dad growing up, Like I say, my dad was a magician that best disappeared, knocked on his side of the Mississippi. But with that being said, I started to learn to communicate with him better.
Yeah.
I started to learn to, how do I say it? Now it's to the point where I'm so confident in my son because he just mimics everything I do.
That's awesome.
So that's why I try to be such a positive influence with it. We went out the other day and we both had suits on, but he had on a different colored jacket than I did, but still dressed up. And I walked out the house with a Mountain Dew. So he grabbed a little mini can of Mountain Dew.
Oh, how cute.
So we get in the car, you know what I mean? He's 7 years old, so we get in the car, I put my drink in the middle console, he put his behind mine. So, I'll take a sip, he'll take a sip. It's just, so me seeing little things like that, if I try to put on a tie, he'll try to put one on. So just to see him,
attention.
Yeah, that he's paying attention.
Yeah.
So I know that it's so much easier now to teach them because if they see me lead by example.
Yes.
They can actually know what to do and how to do it.
Exactly.
And now, like you say, they deserve the why. Now, instead of him getting in trouble and just, hey, give me the game, or hey, you got to get popped. Now it's so much, hey, listen, this is what happened. This is why you're in trouble, and you shouldn't do that because of this,
Right.
And then, we have that conversation as well. So it became a point of me transitioning from don't go straight to violence with it.
Right.
And more so communicate and explain. And then, after that time, if it happens again, maybe you can discipline. But there's more than one way to discipline. You can take away video games. You can take away toys. You can put them in corners. Right now, I put them in the same big one of my shirts. And I make them dance together and hold each other. Ain't no separating.
I used to do that with my sons. I'm like, hug him until you're not mad no more.
I'm not playing that. I learned that one from my grandma and them, and I appreciate that for sure. But, I mean, with my mom, one thing I always tell everybody I'll never take away from her is I appreciate the fact that she was able to raise 3 boys, by herself. You know what I mean? She had some help here and there, but all in all, I'm going to give her the credit of what she did.
That's awesome.
But in general, it's just, like you say, you attacked it, you hit it right on the nose. As a woman with 3 boys, it's hard for certain things for you to teach them or to express certain things to them.
Yeah.
So kudos to you on that. My mama, though, she understood as well, so that's why when her husband came around, it was great to have that
male energy.
You know what I mean?
That influence.
Yeah, and I just appreciate the fact that she did give him the opportunity. At first, she was a little protective.
Yeah.
Like you were. I'm not going to lie. She was. But I just remember hearing a conversation with him one day about how, he's only here to make sure that, everybody's okay. He's not here to cause no harm, but he's here to be,
Yeah.
He's the father figure. Ain't nobody around, so he here, right? They married.
Yeah.
And, at that point, she would let him discipline, and she started seeing progress.
Yeah.
And I think when she started seeing that progress, she was like, oh, so that way is working. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, I think sometimes it's about as men, we got to give that reassurance. But I've never been a stepdad, so I can't really put myself in that position and say, because I've only had to raise and deal with my own children, So I can only give my opinion on how I would be in that situation. I couldn't tell you for sure, But, yeah, I think I would definitely. But like he did, I would definitely be like, I ain't mean it like that. Calm down.
and now, like you said, my son adores my ex-husband, even though we're not married anymore. He still, that's Pops, right?
Yeah.
Like, he still calls him, gets advice, and appreciates him, and they have, so
How old is he?
He'll be 18 next month.
Okay. See, it kicked in for me about 15, 16 is when I was like,
so
hey, okay.
now he's like, I'm calling so-and-so because I don't want to talk to you. Don't know. I'm like, okay. Like, I'm glad you have that safe, he has that safe person to share in. And I know that he's going to give him the right instructions and the real instructions. But one thing that you said that is really important too is that most people don't listen to what you say. They listen to they watch what you do.
Thank you.
So it's super important, and big ups to you about being the role model that your kids want to see, modeling what you say, not just talking about it. So that's super important. Even for me, like, I remember, like, people will say, do this. And it's like, well, I don't even know how to do this because it was never modeled for me. So it's super important that it's being modeled, and you learn more. I'm a hands-on, so I need to see it and show me, not just tell me something.
Yeah. And and that's why I even do it, because people think that I'm only like that with my son, but honestly, even with my daughters, like, I open their doors for them when I get in the car. Open them when we get out. I buy them flowers all the time. Like, my daughters are so. The one thing I love about them is they know daddy got them, but it's sometimes the way they throw it in their mom face. It just be, y'all are too young to be doing that.
Hey, listen, it starts from the beginning, okay?
Yeah, because I want to say my oldest daughter, she asked her mom to get her some flowers, and I think she said she ain't had the money right now or something like that, and she said, it's okay. My daddy will buy me flowers. You know what I mean?
Hey, like, you set that standard.
Right? And I'm happy to see that, because now, like, when my son won't open the door for my daughter, she'd be like, Terrence, you didn't open the door for me. You know?
Right.
So, right. And and again, did she open it by herself? Yes, she did. So she knows how.
Right. But why should I?
There you go. She understands the standard.
Yeah.
So little things like that I model, because I want them to understand, just the basics when it comes to being in life. I want my boys to understand chivalry is never dead. You being a gentleman can never be an insult. Nobody can ever get mad at you for holding the door open, or, giving somebody a jacket because you see they shivering in the cold. You will never get a bad credit for that. If anybody say that, it's because they didn't do it first. They just mad.
Right, exactly. I was just actually telling my son that the other day, because we were with some girls, and I was like, hey, you open the door for me, he always opens the door, but he's like, well, why do I have to do this? And I'm like, because this is what, a good man does. He opens the door. It's polite to let women go first. Yeah. And, like, I had to just kind of explain it to him, like, this whole new age, they're so different from us. And so
everybody's entitled.
Yeah, like, we're equal. Like, okay, well, but back to our roots. The foundation I'm creating is that's not okay. But yeah, it's super important to really implement that.
Yeah, you got to model it. Yeah. Me and their mom had the biggest issue with us, dealing with each other. And I started approaching the conversation different one day by saying, we have girls and we have boys, but my girls won't know what it means to submit to a man that's doing what he should be doing if you don't properly show them how to do that.
Yeah.
And we don't want to pass down that generational curse. We want to break it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I started just being softer with the way I approach conversations, instead of just saying my way or the highway.
Yeah,
right? I started being more understanding and say, hey, this is why we kind of need to work on that, and giving that why you were talking about, instead of just telling her what to do.
Right.
So I definitely give kudos to that. But it's hard, like they say, until you get those tools and resources, you won't want to be able to pinpoint stuff like that right away. And that's why I'm going to always encourage y'all to please go to therapy. Please go to therapy.
Yes,
counseling, life coaches, like we got one here in the building if you need one. You know what I mean?
If you need the proper keys, I definitely have them.
So definitely don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to. So we got about 5 minutes left, but I don't want to just stop without letting you shout yourself out, give out your tags, how people can reach out to you.
Okay.
Definitely go ahead and give that to you for it. I'll give you the floor.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for having me. This is awesome. I think these conversations are definitely needed. But you can find me on all platforms as Coach Amber J. If you are like, hey, you know what, let me think about having a life coach. What is a life coach? What do we do? Let's have a 30-minute discovery call. You can go to my website, book a free 30-minute discovery call. Absolutely. And see if we are a good fit, and see if there's any things that I can share with you, or even just, pour into you. So definitely reach out. I'm definitely here. I'm always in the community and always willing to help and share and give out the keys.
I appreciate that. Look at that, y'all. So I'm telling y'all, also, it is Women's History Month, so I cannot forget to shout that out every show this week because, I always tell y'all, people think because I've tailored the show typically to try to focus on men's mental health that it's like I don't care about the women. Mm-hmm. And no, I want to better these men so they can be better for you women.
Yes,
so that way we
absolutely.
have better partners. The one thing I kept hearing you say today, which I appreciate hearing so much, is you understand that we are here to create a balance.
Yes,
absolutely. That's exactly what we're here for, is a balance. I'm so tired of y'all thinking that we can have one without the other, because you can't.
You can't. Listen, I need my yin to my yang. We could collaborate. It's so important. It's all about collaborations. And again, men bring something that women cannot, and women bring things that men can. I don't care how much we say it, we need that other energy.
Thank you.
So, but more importantly, you got to heal first. So be the best person for you so you can show up and be and attract the right person for you as well.
Let me tell you something. Healing don't start with therapy. Healing start when you're breaking down crying, when you can't be thinking, when you're frustrated trying to find a way out. Healing starts when you take that first step to do something about it. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? So I'll keep that in mind.
Implication.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. I do want to thank you so much for coming out to the show. Of course, we'll definitely have to collab and probably make something happen again for sure. But I appreciate it so much, Coach Amber J. Y'all make sure y'all follow on everything. Reach out. If you need a life coach, now you know where to get one from, because you can't say nothing no more because you heard it here first. Also, if you do want to, don't forget to follow me on all the pages. The TikTok is Just Kwani 23. We have Instagram and what was the other one? Instagram and Twitter are both Just Kwani or Kwani702. And then we do have Facebook, which is Mark Quan Thomas, and or Quan Facebook Jail Thomas, because, I don't know how to behave sometimes. I'm working on that growth. I'll have y'all know come May, I would have been out of Facebook jail for a full year, and then I can go back to my what do I want to call it? To be me, having fun. How about that? I'm just going to keep it a little more PG because I ain't trying to be getting my page deleted, because that's what they said. Anyway, I will see y'all next Wednesday on the hottest radio station here, Hot 702.5 FM. Coach Amber J., thank you again so much for coming out today. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate the appearance.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Of course. Well, y'all, we will catch y'all again another time. I will catch y'all again next week. So with that being said, peace, love, and hair grease. I'll catch y'all next week on the hottest radio station on the planet, Hot 702.5 FM.